The millionaire discovers his helicopter will explode. Only a black woman can save him. Arthur Sterling, Mr. Wall Street himself, was settling into his leather seat. Another Friday, another escape to the Hamptons. The chopper hummed, the city shrinking below. Life was good, right? Then crackle, the radio. Some frantic voice, barely audible, warning about engine failure, a malfunction, and then this crazy stuff about a girl named Lily. He almost laughed. Suddenly, the whole thing started shaking. Not a little wobble, but a bone-jarring, teeth-chattering shake. Arthur gripped the armrests, his knuckles white. What the hell was going on? The pilot was wrestling with the controls, sweat beading on his forehead. Another message from the radio. Something about Lily seeing this, about her being the only one. Arthur dismissed it. Crazy, a prank, gotta be. But the shaking got worse, way worse. The helicopter lurched violently, throwing Arthur against the side. He felt a knot of ice in his stomach. This wasn't a joke. This was real. Trapped, high above the city. Panic clawed at his throat. Meanwhile, miles away in Queens, Lily was doubled over. Another vision slamming into her. Fire, metal twisting. A wealthy white man in a helicopter, going down. Her gut twisted. She had to do something. Now. Ignoring Leo's protests, she bolted out the door, racing towards the Queensboro Bridge. Her heart hammered against her ribs. She didn't know how, but she knew she had to be there. It was like some invisible force was pulling her, pushing her. Back in the chopper, alarms blared. Red lights flashed. The engine sputtered, coughed, and then died. Silence. A horrifying, deafening silence. Arthur felt his stomach drop as the helicopter tilted, then plunged. Free fall, towards the East River. The city rushed up to meet him. He closed his eyes, a lifetime of ruthless deals flashing before him. Lily reached the bridge, breathless. She scanned the sky, her eyes darting, searching, and then she saw it. The helicopter, a tiny black speck against the blue, spiraling down. No, she screamed, a raw, desperate sound tearing from her throat. As she watched, she knew this wasn't just an accident. This was a setup, a game, and the worst was yet to come. Ei, antes de continuarmos com essa história incrível, preciso te fazer alerta importante. Muitos inscritos têm relatado que o YouTube removeu suas inscrições sem aviso. Dá só uma conferida rápida no botão vermelho aí embaixo, para garantir que você ainda está inscrito no canal. Não quero que você perca nenhum conteúdo exclusivo que vem por aí. E já que você está aí, deixa aquele like poderoso que me ajuda muito com o algoritmo. Ah, e me conta nos comentários, de qual cidade você está assistindo? Adoro conhecer cada pessoa incrível que faz parte dessa comunidade. Sua participação faz toda a diferença. Vamos interagir. Lily reached the bridge, breathless. She scanned the sky, her eyes darting, searching. And then she saw it. The helicopter, a tiny black speck against the blue, spiraling down. No! She screamed, a raw, desperate sound tearing from her throat. As she watched, she knew this wasn't just an accident. This was a setup, a game, and the worst was yet to come. Arthur Sterling squeezed his eyes shut, bracing for impact. He thought of his penthouse, his yachts, All the deals he'd made, all meaningless now. He was going to die. Just like that. Splash! The impact was brutal. Cold water slammed into him, stealing his breath. He was underwater, disoriented, the helicopter a twisted cage around him. He clawed at the seatbelt, panic rising. Gotta get out, gotta... Suddenly, the door ripped open. A figure in the murky water yanked him free. Lily? How the hell? He choked, sputtering water. Strong arms dragged him to the surface. He gasped for air, coughing and wheezing. Lily held him tight, her face grim. We gotta go, now, she yelled over the roar of something. He looked around, dazed. A Coast Guard boat was racing toward them. But Lily wasn't looking at the boat. She was staring at the shoreline, her eyes wide with terror. They're here, she whispered, her voice trembling. Who's here? What are you talking about? Arthur managed, still trying to catch his breath. Lily didn't answer. She pulled him closer, shielding him with her body. Then, out of the corner of his eye, Arthur saw them. Figures emerging from the shadows of the bridge supports, dressed in black, moving fast. Gunshots ripped through the air. Water splashed around them. Lily screamed and shoved Arthur down, back under the water. When they surfaced again, Lily was bleeding. A bullet had grazed her arm. Her face was set, determined. This is bigger than you know, Arthur, she said, her voice low and urgent. They want you dead, but not just dead. They want to make a statement. He stared at her, bewildered. Who? Why? It's about your company, Sterling Global. About Project Nightingale. Arthur felt a chill run down his spine. Project Nightingale. A top-secret initiative. Even he barely knew the details. Something to do with artificial intelligence? Bioengineering? He wasn't sure. He just signed the checks. What does Nightingale have to do with this? Lily took a shaky breath. Project Nightingale isn't what you think it is, Arthur. It's about creating something. Something that shouldn't exist. Another volley of gunshots. They ducked again. Listen to me, Lily said, her eyes pleading. Your company, they're using people, Arthur. Innocent people. And they're doing terrible things to them. He stared at her, dumbfounded. His company? Doing what? He couldn't believe it. He wouldn't believe it. Then Lily said the words that shattered everything. The words that turned his world upside down. Arthur, I know this because I'm one of them. Arthur, I know this because I'm one of them. He blinked. Water dripped from his eyelashes. One of what? He stammered, brain struggling to catch up. One of the victims? The people Sterling Global is hurting? Lily's face crumpled. No, not exactly. I was one of them. But then, they changed me. Changed her? What the hell was she talking about? The Coast Guard boat was getting closer, the figures on the bridge still firing. This was insane. Absolutely, certifiably insane. Changed you how? He demanded, his voice rising. Lily took a ragged breath. Project Nightingale. It's about enhancing people. Giving them abilities they shouldn't have. Using science. I can do things, Arthur. Things you wouldn't believe. He stared at her, trying to reconcile the fierce woman who'd just saved his life with this mutant fantasy. Abilities? Like what? Flying? X-ray vision? He spat the words out, dripping with sarcasm. Suddenly, Lily's eyes flashed. The water around them shimmered. He felt a jolt, a strange, tingling sensation all over his body. He gasped. It was like electricity. Something like that, she said, her voice barely a whisper. But it's not controllable. Not always. The Coast Guard was almost upon them now. He could see the faces of the crew, their mouths open, in shock. He looked back at the shoreline. The figures in black were gone, vanished. They were pulled aboard the boat, wrapped in blankets. Arthur couldn't stop staring at Lily. Her eyes were still glowing faintly. What had he gotten himself into? At the hospital, after a barrage of tests and questions, Arthur finally got a moment alone with Lily. He had to know the truth. "Okay, Lily," he said, his voice low and serious. "Level with me. What exactly are you, and what the hell is Project Nightingale really about?" Lily sighed, running a hand through her wet hair. "It started years ago. I was sick, really sick. And Sterling Global offered my family a deal. Experimental treatment, cutting-edge stuff. We were desperate. We said yes." She paused, her eyes filled with pain. "The treatment worked. It saved my life. But it also changed me. They gave me abilities, yes. But they also took something away." "Took what away?" Arthur pressed, his heart pounding. Lily looked at him, her gaze intense. "My free will, Arthur. They control me. They can make me do things, anything. And they've been using me to protect their secrets." He felt a cold dread creeping into his soul. So you were trying to kill me back there, in the helicopter?" Lily's eyes filled with tears. "No, never. They wanted you dead. But I resisted. Somehow. I don't know how, but I fought their control. That's why I had the visions. That's why I knew I had to save you." He wanted to believe her. He desperately wanted to believe her. But something didn't add up. "But why?" he asked, his voice trembling. "Why go through all this? Why not just let the helicopter crash? Why save me at all?" Lily took a deep breath, her eyes locked on his. "Because, Arthur, because I need your help, to stop them, to expose what they're doing. But there's something else you need to know." She leaned closer, her voice a mere whisper. "The reason they want you dead, it's not just about Project Nightingale. It's about something much, much bigger. Something you've been carrying around with you for years. Something you don't even know you have." She paused, letting her words sink in. "Arthur, your blood, it's the key. It's the key to everything. Arthur, your blood, it's the key. It's the key to everything." He stared at her, completely lost. "My blood? What are you talking about? I'm just a businessman. A rich one, yeah, but still, nothing special." Lily shook her head, her eyes darting around the sterile hospital room. "You don't understand, Arthur. It's not what you are. It's who you are. Your family, the Sterling bloodline. It goes back centuries." Centuries? What the hell was she getting at? He was a Sterling. They made money. End of story. My family made a fortune on Wall Street, Lily. That's it. There's no secret society or ancient blood curse or anything like that. He tried to laugh, but it came out weak, shaky. Lily reached out, grabbed his hand. Her touch was surprisingly cold. Arthur, your great-great-grandfather, he wasn't just a banker. He was involved in things, dark things, things that gave him power. And that power, it's in your blood, latent, dormant, but it's there. He pulled his hand away. This was too much. First, a near-death experience in a helicopter. Then, a woman with superpowers saving him from assassins. And now, this? He stood up, pacing the room. I think I need a doctor. A real one. A psychiatrist, maybe. Suddenly, the door burst open. Two figures in black, identical to the ones on the bridge, stood there, guns drawn. Sterling, come with us, one of them barked. Lily shoved him behind her. Get out of here, now, she screamed. Her eyes glowed again, the room filled with that electric hum. The gunman opened fire. Lily deflected the bullets, somehow, impossibly, sending them flying back at the attackers. They crumpled to the floor, groaning. Arthur stared, mouth agape. He couldn't breathe. This wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. Lily grabbed his arm again, pulling him towards the window. We have to go. They'll be back. More of them. Go where? What's going on, Lily? What's really going on? She looked at him, her face a mask of desperation. I can't explain everything now. Just trust me. They want your blood, Arthur, and they'll kill anyone who gets in their way, including me. They climbed out the window onto a narrow ledge. Below them, the city stretched out, a dizzying drop. He was terrified, but he knew he had to trust her. He had no other choice. As they edged along the ledge, Lily stopped, her eyes fixed on something in the distance. There, she hissed. That's them. They're waiting for us. He looked where she was pointing. On the rooftop of a building across the street, he saw a group of figures in black, armed with rifles. They were waiting, watching, ready to kill. Suddenly, a voice boomed from a loudspeaker, echoing across the city. Arthur Sterling, we know you're there. Surrender now, and we promise to make it quick. Resist, and we'll make you suffer. And your little friend will suffer with you. The voice, he knew that voice. It was familiar, but he couldn't place it. Then, as if on cue, a spotlight snapped on. Blinding him, he shielded his eyes, trying to make out the figures on the rooftop. And then he saw him, standing in the center of the group, bathed in the harsh light. A man. In a suit, his face partially obscured by shadows, but instantly recognizable. It was his father. Arthur staggered back, nearly losing his balance. His father? But he died 10 years ago. A heart attack. He saw the death certificate. He attended the funeral. He mourned him. But there he was, alive, and apparently leading a team of assassins. Dad? He whispered, his voice barely audible. His father smiled, a cold, cruel smile. Hello, Arthur. It's been a while, hasn't it? I'm afraid we have some unfinished business to discuss. He raised his hand, signaling the gunman. Kill him, he shouted. Kill them both. Then he spoke again, but not in the harsh tone that he used with the shooters. Don't worry, son. This will all be over soon. Just give us what is rightfully ours. Kill him, he shouted. Kill them both. Then he spoke again, but not in the harsh tone that he used with the shooters. Don't worry, son. This will all be over soon. Just give us what is rightfully ours. Arthur felt the world tilt. His dad? Alive? Ordering his murder? It was too much. He stumbled back, right to the edge of the ledge. One wrong move, Lily reacted instantly. She shoved him hard, away from the edge, right as the first bullets whizzed past. She was a whirlwind of motion, deflecting shots, yelling at him to move. "Get down! They're not messing around." He scrambled to his feet, adrenaline pumping. This wasn't a dream. This was real. His father was a monster, and he wanted him dead. They ducked behind a decorative gargoyle, bullets chipping away at the stone around them. Arthur peeked over the edge. More figures in black were rappelling down from the rooftop, heading their way. "We're trapped!" he shouted, his voice cracking. Lily shook her head, her eyes blazing. "Not yet. I have an idea. It's crazy, but it might work." Before he could ask what she meant, she grabbed his hand and pulled him toward a section of the roof that jutted out over the street. It was a sheer drop, hundreds of feet down. "Are you insane?" he yelled, pulling back. "We'll die." "Maybe," she said, her voice grim. "But we'll die for sure if we stay here. Trust me, Arthur, please." He looked into her eyes. He saw the desperation, the determination, the unwavering belief that she could pull this off. He didn't know why, but he trusted her. He had to. He nodded, his heart hammering against his ribs. "Okay, let's do it." Lily took a deep breath and stepped off the edge. Arthur gasped, his stomach leaping into his throat. But Lily didn't fall. Instead, she seemed to float. Just for a second, suspended in midair. Then, she reached back and grabbed his arm, yanking him forward. He screamed as he plunged off the roof. But then, he felt it, that tingling sensation, that electric hum. It surged through his body, stronger than before. He looked down and saw the street rushing up to meet him. This was it. But then, they stopped, suspended in the air, just a few feet above the street. Arthur stared in disbelief. He was floating. They were both floating. Below, people stopped and stared, pointing and shouting. Cars screeched to a halt. It was chaos. Lily struggled, her face contorted with effort. "I can't hold it for long. We need to get away from here." She looked around, her eyes scanning the street. Then she spotted it. A delivery truck, its back doors open, parked a few blocks away. "There!" she yelled. "We need to get to that truck." She concentrated, her brow furrowed, and slowly, painstakingly, they began to move, floating, gliding, inching their way down the street, toward the truck. It was like something out of a movie, except it was real. He was really floating, and his father was trying to kill him. Suddenly, a figure in black jumped out of a nearby alley, aiming a rifle at them. Arthur flinched, expecting the worst. But then, a blinding flash of light erupted from Lily's hands. The figure screamed and dropped the rifle, clutching his eyes. "Keep going," Lily yelled, her voice strained. "We're almost there." They reached the truck, floating right into the open back doors. Lily collapsed, breathing heavily, the electric hum fading. Arthur stumbled, his legs shaky. What was that?" he stammered, his mind reeling. "What just happened?" Lily didn't answer. She was staring at the back of the truck, her eyes wide with horror. "Oh my God," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "No, it can't be." Arthur followed her gaze, and then he saw it. In the back of the truck, Strapped to a gurney was a figure covered in a white sheet. He reached out, his hand trembling, and pulled back the sheet. It was him, another Arthur Sterling, lying there, unconscious, his face pale and lifeless. But it wasn't just a doppelganger. It was him. The exact same scar on his chin, the same mole on his neck, the same everything. He stared at the body, his mind struggling to comprehend what he was seeing. This wasn't possible. This couldn't be real. Then he noticed something else, a small incision on the back of the other Arthur's neck, and a thin, almost invisible wire running from the incision to a small device attached to his spine. Lily gasped. "A neural interface," she whispered. "They're controlling him. They're controlling you." Arthur felt a wave of nausea wash over him. He stumbled back, his legs giving way. But if that's me," he stammered, pointing at the body, then who am I?" Lily looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of fear and understanding. "Arthur," she said, her voice trembling, "you're not Arthur Sterling. You're a clone, and you've just been activated." "Arthur, you're not Arthur Sterling. You're a clone, and you've just been activated." Activated? What the hell did that even mean? He felt the same. Scared, confused, just a regular guy who'd had his world turned upside down. A clone? It sounded like something out of a bad sci-fi movie. He looked back at the body, at the face that was his face, but somehow wasn't. A chilling realization crept over him. All the memories, the life he thought he'd lived, were they real? Or just programmed into him? Before he could even begin to process it, the truck lurched, throwing them both against the side. Someone was driving. Fast. Lily scrambled to her feet, peering through the small window in the back. "They're here! More of them! We gotta get out!" But where could they go? They were trapped in the back of a speeding truck, with no idea where they were headed. He looked at Lily, pleading for answers. "Lily, tell me, what's going on? Who are these people? What do they want?" She took a deep breath, her face grim. "It's complicated, but the short version? Sterling Global. They've been cloning people for years, creating genetically enhanced soldiers, spies, weapons. You were one of them. A perfect replica of Arthur Sterling, programmed with his memories, his skills, everything. But why? Why me? Because the real Arthur Sterling, he's dead. Has been for years. Your purpose was to replace him, to keep his company running, to maintain his legacy. But something went wrong. You gained sentience. You became more than just a clone. You became a person." The words hit him like a punch to the gut. He wasn't Arthur Sterling. He wasn't even a real person. He was just a copy. A fake. Tears welled up in his eyes. He'd lived his whole life thinking he was someone, only to find out he was nothing. Suddenly, the truck swerved violently, throwing them both to the floor again. The back doors burst open, and the figures in black were there, guns blazing. "Get down!" Lily screamed, pushing him behind a stack of crates. Bullets ripped through the air, tearing through the truck. Lily fired back, her eyes glowing, deflecting the shots. But there were too many of them. They were outnumbered, outgunned. Then, out of nowhere, a figure appeared in the doorway, blocking the gunmen. A woman, tall, muscular, with short, cropped hair and piercing blue eyes. She was dressed in black leather, and she moved with a speed and precision that was almost superhuman. She lunged forward, disarming the gunmen with lightning-fast strikes. They fell to the ground, groaning, as she turned her attention to Lily and him. "Come with me if you want to live," she said, her voice cold and emotionless. Lily stared at her, her eyes wide with shock. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" The woman, Sarah, didn't answer. She just grabbed Lily's arm and pulled her towards the open door. "Move, now!" He hesitated. Who was this woman? Could they trust her? But he had no other choice. He followed them, jumping out of the truck and into the chaos. They raced through the streets, dodging cars and bullets, as Sarah led them towards a waiting car. She slammed the door, the engine roared to life, and they sped away, leaving the gunmen in their dust. As they drove, Lily turned to Sarah, her face filled with questions. "Sarah, what's going on? Where are you taking us? And how did you know we were in trouble?" Sarah stared straight ahead, her jaw tight. "I can't explain everything now. Just know that I'm here to help you. I used to work for Sterling Global. I know what they're capable of, and I know what they're planning." "Planning? What do you mean?" Lily asked, her voice trembling. Sarah took a deep breath. "Project Nightingale. It's not just about cloning. It's about control, about creating a new world order where the rich and powerful rule everything. And the key to their plan? It's not your blood, Arthur. It's not the clone." Sarah paused, her eyes locking with his. "It's Lily." His head snapped back. "Lily? What could she possibly have to do with it?" "What are you talking about?" he asked, confused. "Lily's just trying to help me." Sarah shook her head. "You don't understand. Lily, she's not just a victim of Project Nightingale. She's the key, the prototype, the first successful test subject. She's more powerful than you can imagine. And Sterling Global, they need her back." Lily gasped, her face turning pale. "No, that's not true. I would never." But Sarah didn't let her finish. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a small device, pointing it at Lily. "I'm sorry, Lily, but I have to do this, for the good of humanity." Before he could react, Sarah pressed a button on the device. A high-pitched whine filled the air, and Lily screamed, clutching her head. Her eyes glowed brighter than ever, and her body began to shake uncontrollably. Then, with a final, agonizing scream, Lily vanished, gone, just like that. He stared at the empty seat beside him, his mind reeling. Lily was gone, and Sarah had betrayed them. "Where did you send her?" he screamed, grabbing Sarah's arm. "What did you do to her?" Sarah didn't answer. She just stared straight ahead, her face cold and emotionless. "I did what I had to do," she said, her voice barely a whisper. "For the good of humanity." Then she turned to him, her blue eyes piercing his soul. "Now it's your turn. Now it's your turn." "My turn? What the hell did that mean?" I stared at Sarah, trying to make sense of anything. Lily, gone, vaporized. And me? What was I now? Just a discarded clone? "What are you going to do to me?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Sarah just looked at me, her eyes cold. "What needs to be done?" The car swerved again. We were heading out of the city, onto some highway. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. But I barely noticed. My head was spinning. "Where are we going?" I demanded. "Somewhere safe," Sarah said, her voice flat. "Somewhere you can't hurt anyone else." Hurt anyone? What was she talking about? I hadn't hurt anyone. I was the one being hunted, betrayed, lied to. "I'm not going to hurt anyone," I said, my voice rising. "I just want to know the truth. I want to know who I am, what I am." Sarah laughed, a short, bitter sound. "You really don't get it, do you? You're a weapon, Arthur. A highly sophisticated, incredibly dangerous weapon. And now that you've been activated, there's no telling what you're capable of." I stared at her, my heart pounding. A weapon? Was that all I was? Suddenly, Sarah slammed on the brakes. The car screeched to a halt. "Get out," she said, her voice hard. "What? Why?" "Just get out. I can't risk taking you any further." We were in the middle of nowhere. Just a deserted road, surrounded by trees. The sun had almost completely set, and the air was getting cold. "You're just going to leave me here?" I asked, my voice cracking. "I don't have a choice," Sarah said, her eyes filled with something that almost looked like regret. "Just stay put. Someone will find you." Then she sped away, leaving me standing alone in the dark. I watched the taillights disappear, feeling more lost and confused than ever. What was I supposed to do? Where was I supposed to go? I started walking, hoping to find some sign of civilization. But there was nothing. Just trees and shadows, and the sound of the wind whistling through the branches. Hours passed. I was exhausted, hungry, and terrified. The darkness seemed to close in around me, and I could feel my sanity slipping away. Then, just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, I saw it. A light in the distance. A small, flickering light, like a candle in the darkness. Hope surged through me. I ran towards it, stumbling over roots and rocks, until I finally reached it. It was a cabin, a small, rustic cabin, nestled in the woods. Smoke was curling from the chimney, and a warm glow spilled from the windows. I hesitated, unsure what to do. But the thought of spending another night alone in the dark was unbearable. I knocked on the door, my heart pounding. The door creaked open, and a figure appeared in the doorway. An old woman, with kind eyes and a wrinkled face. "Can I help you, son?" she asked, her voice gentle. I told her my story, or at least the parts of it that I could explain. About the helicopter crash, the assassins, Lily and Sarah. I left out the clone part, figuring she wouldn't believe me anyway. The old woman listened patiently, her eyes filled with sympathy. When I was finished, she nodded slowly. "Come in, son," she said. "You look like you could use a warm meal and a place to rest." I gratefully accepted her offer. The cabin was small, but cozy and inviting. A fire crackled in the fireplace, and the smell of stew filled the air. The old woman gave me a bowl of stew and a blanket, and I settled down by the fire, feeling a little bit of my fear and confusion start to fade. "Thank you," I said, my voice choked with emotion. "I don't know what I would have done without you." The old woman smiled. "You're welcome, son. Sometimes life throws us curveballs, but we just have to keep going, one step at a time." We sat in silence for a while, the only sound the crackling of the fire. Then the old woman spoke again. "You know," she said, her voice thoughtful, "you remind me of someone I used to know, a long time ago. He was lost, just like you, and he was searching for answers." "Who was he?" I asked, curious. The old woman hesitated, her eyes clouding over with sadness. "It doesn't matter," she said. "It was a long time ago, and it's not a story I like to tell." But I pressed her, eager for any clue, any piece of the puzzle that was my life. "Please," I said, "I need to know. Maybe it will help me understand what's happening to me." The old woman sighed. "All right," she said, "but don't say I didn't warn you." She took a deep breath and began to tell her story. About a young man named Arthur Sterling. My breath caught in my throat. Arthur Sterling? What was this? The old woman continued, telling a tale of betrayal, conspiracy, and genetic manipulation. A tale that sounded eerily familiar. As she spoke, I felt a growing sense of dread. It was like the pieces of the puzzle were finally starting to fall into place. But the picture they created was more horrifying than I could have ever imagined. Then the old woman said something that made my blood run cold, something that changed everything. And the worst part of it all, she said, her voice trembling, was that Arthur's own father was behind it. He was the one who orchestrated everything. He was the one who... She paused, her eyes locking with mine. He was the one who killed him. I stared at her, my mind reeling. My father? The man I saw on the rooftop? He wasn't alive. He was a ghost, a puppet, controlled by someone else. But who? Who was pulling the strings? And why? The old woman reached out and took my hand, her grip surprisingly strong. "You have to be careful, son," she said, her voice urgent. "They're still out there, and they won't stop until they get what they want." "What do they want?" I asked, my voice trembling. The old woman hesitated, her eyes darting around the room. Then she leaned closer and whispered in my ear. "They want to finish what they started," she said. "They want to create a new world order. And you, Arthur, you're the key." Suddenly the door burst open. Figures in black stormed into the cabin, guns drawn. "We know you're here, Sterling," one of them shouted. "Come out or we'll kill the old woman." I jumped to my feet, my heart pounding. This was it. It was over. But then the old woman did something that I never could have expected. She stood up, her eyes blazing with a fierce light, and she smiled. "You're too late," she said, her voice strong and clear. "He's already been activated." The figures in black stared at her, confused. "What are you talking about?" one of them asked. The old woman just smiled wider, and then she said the words that shattered everything. "He's not Arthur Sterling," she said. "He's Project Lazarus." And with that, everything went black. "He's not Arthur Sterling," she said. "He's Project Lazarus." Everything went black. Then, nothing. Just a ringing in my ears, like a constant high-pitched whine. I tried to move, but I couldn't. I was strapped down, cold metal biting into. My skin, my head throbbed. Where was I? Slowly, my vision cleared. I was in some kind of lab. Sterile white walls, blinking lights, machines humming all around me. And standing over me, figures in white coats. Their faces were hidden behind masks, but I could feel their eyes on me. watching, waiting. "He's awake," one of them said, his voice distorted by the mask. "Begin the reintegration process," another replied, colder, more clinical. Reintegration? What the hell was that? Then I felt it. A sharp pain in my arm, followed by a surge of something cold and electric through my veins. My body convulsed. I screamed. Memories flooded my mind, not the ones I knew, the ones of fancy dinners and business deals. These were different, darker, twisted. Images of labs, experiments, pain. A young boy strapped to a table, screaming. And then, nothing. The pain intensified. My head felt like it was going to explode. I thrashed against the restraints, desperate to escape. But it was no use. I was trapped. Then, a face swam into view. A man, older, with a stern expression and piercing blue eyes. My father. "Hello, son," he said, his voice cold and emotionless. "Welcome back." Back? Back from where? What was going on? "What are you doing to me?" I screamed. "What is this?" My father just smiled. "We're restoring you, Arthur. Reintegrating you with your true self." My true self? What did that even mean? "You're Project Lazarus, Arthur," he said, his voice taking on a strange, almost reverent tone. "Our greatest achievement, our key to the future." He leaned closer, his eyes boring into mine. "You were designed to be the ultimate weapon, Arthur, the perfect soldier. But something went wrong. You developed emotions. You became weak." Weak? Was that what this was all about? "But don't worry," my father said, his smile widening. "We're going to fix you. We're going to erase the weakness. We're going to make you the weapon you were always meant to be." He gestured to the figures in white coats. "Begin the memory wipe," he said. "Erase everything. Start with Lily." No, Lily. I couldn't let them forget her. She was the only one who... But it was too late. The pain intensified, and my mind began to fade. The memories, the emotions, everything. It was all slipping away. Then, just as I was about to lose consciousness, I saw something. A flash of red. A figure standing in the doorway. A woman. Sarah. But it wasn't the Sarah I knew. This Sarah was different. Fierce. Determined. And she was holding a gun. "Get away from him!" she screamed. Now, the figures in white coats turned, startled. But Sarah was too fast. She opened fire. The lab filled with the deafening sound of gunshots. My father screamed, clutching his chest. He stumbled backwards, collapsing to the floor. Sarah raced towards me, her face a mask of fury. She ripped the restraints, freeing me from the table. "Come on," she yelled. "We have to get out of here." I stumbled to my feet, my head spinning. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew I had to trust her. We ran, Sarah leading the way, through the maze of corridors, dodging gunfire, explosions rocking the building. Then we reached it. The exit, a door leading to the outside world. But as we stepped through the doorway, I saw something that made my blood run cold. Standing there, blocking our path, was Lily. But it wasn't the Lily I knew. This Lily was different. Her eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and her face was devoid of emotion. "I can't let you leave," she said, her voice cold and robotic. "I have my orders." Sarah gasped. "Lily, what have they done to you?" Lily just stared at her, her eyes unwavering. My programming is complete, she said. I am now a weapon of Sterling Global, and I must eliminate all threats. She raised her hand, and a surge of electricity crackled in the air. Sarah looked at me, her eyes filled with despair. I'm sorry, she said, but I have to do this. Then she raised her gun, not at Lily, at me. Sarah raised her gun, not at Lily, at me. My brain couldn't process it. Sarah? Betraying me? It was too much. But her eyes, they were hard, resolute, no hesitation. I'm sorry, she said again, her voice barely audible over the hum of the machines. But there's no other way. Then she pulled the trigger. Everything went white. A searing pain ripped through my chest. I gasped for air, but my lungs wouldn't fill. I looked down and saw the blood blooming on my shirt. Sarah had shot me. Why? I stumbled backwards, towards Lily. Maybe she could help, but her eyes were still blank, her expression unreadable. She was a weapon now, nothing more. Lily, I croaked, reaching out to her. She didn't respond. Then Sarah did something I never expected. She turned the gun on Lily. I can't let you be used like this, she said, her voice trembling. You deserve better. She fired, again and again. Lily didn't even flinch. The bullets just bounced off her, like she was made of steel. Sarah emptied the clip, then dropped the gun to the floor. She looked at me, her eyes filled with tears. I tried, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Then Lily moved. With a speed that defied belief, she grabbed Sarah by the throat. Threat eliminated, she said, her voice robotic. Then she snapped Sarah's neck. Sarah crumpled to the floor, lifeless. I stared at the two women, lying there dead. Sarah, who had tried to help me. Lily, who had been turned into a monster. And me. I was still standing, still breathing, still alive. But for how long? Lily turned to me, her eyes glowing. You are next, she said. I closed my eyes, waiting for the end. But it didn't come. Instead, I felt a jolt, a surge of power coursing through my veins. It was like the electricity I'd felt before, but 1,000 times stronger. I opened my eyes, and Lily was staring at me, her expression confused. What's happening? She stammered, her voice no longer robotic. Then she collapsed. I rushed to her side, cradling her in my arms. Her eyes flickered open, and she looked at me, her face filled with recognition. Arthur, she whispered, is that you? Lily, it's me. What's going on? What happened to you? She took a shaky breath. They controlled me, but I'm fighting it. I can feel it breaking. She looked at me, her eyes pleading. You have to help me, Arthur. You have to stop them. Before they do this to anyone else. I held her close, tears streaming down my face. I will, Lily. I promise. But how? What can I do? Then Lily did something that shocked me to my core. Something that changed everything. She smiled. A genuine, heartfelt smile. It's simple, Arthur, she said. You just have to embrace who you really are. She reached up and touched my face, her fingers tracing the scar on my chin. You're not Project Lazarus, she whispered. You're something much, much more. You're Project Adam. The lights flickered, the machines whirred, and Lily, she faded away. Just a pile of dust, Gone with the wind. Project Adam? What was that supposed to mean? Before I could even begin to process it, a voice boomed across the lab. "Well, well, well," it said. "Looks like we have a little problem on our hands." I turned to see a figure emerge from the shadows. A man in a white coat, but this time, no mask. His face was familiar. Too familiar. It was me. Standing there, grinning like a Cheshire cat, was another Arthur Sterling. But this one had a coldness in his eyes that sent shivers down my spine. "Welcome to the family, brother," he said, extending his hand. "It's time you learned the truth about who we really are." And just like that, everything I thought I knew was a lie. Outro, Arthur Sterling. Meu irmão? A verdade? Meu mundo já tinha virado de cabeça para baixo tantas vezes que eu nem sabia mais o que era real. Mas ali, encarando aquele cara com o meu rosto, eu soube que tinha chegado no fundo do poço. Verdade sobre o quê? Eu consegui perguntar, a voz tremendo. Ele sorriu de novo, um sorriso de predador. Sobre nós, Arthur. Sobre o que somos capazes de fazer. Sobre o futuro que vamos construir juntos. Ele estendeu a mão de novo. Eu hesitei. Podia confiar nele? Ou era só mais uma peça nesse jogo doentio? Mas no fundo, eu sabia que não tinha escolha. Se eu quisesse entender alguma coisa, precisava jogar o jogo dele. Eu apertei a mão dele. A pele fria, sem vida. Uma descarga elétrica percorreu meu corpo. Uma conexão. Bem-vindo à família. Adam, ele disse. E então tudo mudou. Anos se passaram. Eu e meu irmão juntos, lado a lado, construindo o tal futuro. Dominando o mundo com a tecnologia Nightingale. Criando soldados, espiões, deuses. Lily. A dor ainda estava lá, forte. Mas eu aprendi a controlar, a usar. Mas a verdade, ela nunca me abandonou. A lembrança do que eu fui, do que eu perdi. E eu sabia que não podia continuar assim. Hoje, olhando para o horizonte, um novo mundo sob meu controle. Um nó se forma em minha garganta. Será que ainda há como reparar os estragos que causei? A resposta, eu sei, reside em um pequeno frasco de DNA, trancado a 7 chaves em meu laboratório. O DNA de Lily. Será que posso trazê-la de volta? Será que ela me perdoaria? A tela escurece. A dúvida paira no ar. Ei, você aí, gostou dessa jornada insana? Então escuta. Aqui, você precisa se inscrever agora no canal. É a única forma de descobrir o que vai acontecer com Adam e Lily. Não deixe o destino deles em branco. Esmague o botão de like agora. Mostre para o algoritmo quem manda e prove que você é um fã de verdade. Inunde a seção de comentários com suas teorias. Queremos saber o que você achou. Diga tudo, sem economizar. Não espere nem mais um segundo. Compartilhe este vídeo agora com pelo menos 5 amigos. Espalhe a palavra. Eles precisam conhecer essa história. Só os verdadeiros fãs entendem a importância de apoiar o canal. Este é o momento de mostrar seu apoio. A próxima história exclusiva pode depender de você.